Good morning and hello. Sup? Oh god, another beautiful day. Yeah, so last night was pretty fun. Reacting to all that shit. Um, yeah, the more I thought about it, honestly. Actually, hold on. Let me. Do you guys think this camera's okay? Let's see. Nope. It's... Hmm. We'll roll with this, I guess, for now. Okay. Yeah. So, the more I thought about it from last night, the more I'm thinking, like, with that Will Smith video, that we watched, the more I think about it, the less I'm inclined to believe it was genuine. I think that I think in some respects it does come off as being like sincere, but the more I thought about it, it seems as though it was more so rehearsed than anything else. So I don't know. I really don't. Nice. Yeah, so I'm streaming today. Surprise, surprise. And I'm streaming early. So that's, fun. Yeah, we have a couple things. Excuse me. I wanted to, I don't know, cover, I guess. I saw this thing on Twitter, and I honest to God thought it was a joke. I really did. And let me pull it up. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I saw this shit, right? This congressman, I guess this is like an actual congressperson. I just voted to reinstate the assault weapons ban. Now it's the Senate's turn to pass it. So this is someone who voted, yeah. And this person right here said never even heard of this guy, and I won't comply even if this silly law passes. it's it's like okay, and then he responds with this banger, dude, fucking banger. I honestly wish that there was more politicians, especially Democrats, who were willing to. I don't know, man. I would sacrifice some optics if it meant like calling someone out. You know what I mean? Like perhaps going a little too hard on this guy, um, but against like some insane fucking conservatives, going hard against them, I feel like that's totally warranted. Now, of course, this is deleted. This tweet has been since deleted, but I just thought it was fucking funny, dude. Yeah. We need more brave men and women like Congressman Chai Garcia. Um. Oh yeah. Apparently, like, another thing is that like our GDP, the United States GDP, has fallen for the second consecutive quarter, which by definition is a recession. Um, I don't know. Let's listen to what our financial experts are telling us on CNNBC. CNBC. I don't. Yeah, I'm actually kind of curious.
6,000. That's up 5,000 for, oh my gosh. Boy, not only was I wrong, down 0.9% on first look at second quarter GDP, down 0.9%. Okay, I know there's an organization that decides whether we're in a recession or not, but investors, they're not going to wait. Two back-to-back negative quarters, it's not good. Call it whatever you want. Consumption up 1%. That's
Is is measuring whether or not we're in a recession, like the two consecutive quarter things, is that really like a viable way of measuring such things? I guess recession, like the concept of a recession is arbitrary, but which I guess would logically necessitate that the definition requires arbitrary standards. But I don't know.
that's a bit light. Sequentially, that follows 1.8. If we look at the price index, also not very good news. 8.7%. 8.7% on the price index. That will still comp back to 1981 because in 1981, our comp goes all the way up to 11%. If we look at
Cool.
personal consumption expenditure quarter over quarter, exactly as expected, up 4.4%. The high water mark there was 6.1. That was all the way back in June of 2021. Of course, that was the second quarter, and that was the highest since '83. And if we consider all these numbers in totality, we definitely want to pay attention to what's going on in interest rates because they are dropping very quickly. Initial claims, as I said before I saw it down 0.9%, 256.
Not really surprising to see T bonds and T notes going up in response to the economic forecasts that we're seeing right now. And it's also interesting. I mean, I think I saw the other day, Friday or not Friday, Thursday. I don't remember, but I saw one day that the Federal Reserve raised interest rates by 75 basis points. So
6,000. The revision has come in. The revision moves up 10 grand from 251 to 261,000 last week, which makes this a lower number by 5,000 to 256,000 on continuing claims. 1,359,000. 1,359,000. The best level, of course, was back in May, and that was 1,306,000.
yeah, I think a lot of one reason why our economy is the way it is right now, I feel like, is because it's trying to deal with the aftermath of COVID. Now, that isn't to suggest that COVID is gone by any stretch of the imagination, but in terms of how our economy is structured, I think we're adapting more or less to COVID and living with it. And as such, the way our economy, because COVID really did dramatically alter our economy. It really changed a lot of things dramatically and in a very short period of time. One of the biggest things is people working from home. Remote workplaces are far more ubiquitous than they were before. Also, I think the service sector, I don't know, I think that in response to COVID, it sort of created like this sort of awakening, I suppose, like this class consciousness among a lot of the service industry, especially fast food. And that has resulted in fast food places, having to pay people or offering to pay people like 15 to start out or whatever, right? And there's been a lot of incentives across other industries to raise wages accordingly. Now, this is speculation. I'm just more or less theorizing, but I think that COVID sparked something in the service sector with respect to like being consciously aware of the class antagonism that exists between the proletariat and the bourgeois. Um, yeah, I think that there's I mean like COVID dramatically shifted our economy. Like it's crazy. Like even like it's just insane to me how it's the fact that it dramatically shifted the economy in such a short period of time as well. And I think that, like the way like our economy is functioning right now is kind of trying to deal with like the aftermath of that. I think. I mean, like inflation, for example, being as high as it is attributable, of course, to the supply chain crisis with COVID, but also with like other extenuating things like like the war in Ukraine, for example. But yeah, so um, okay, I just felt as though it might be appropriate to address some of that. Given the fact that GDP fell again in the second consecutive quarter, I wonder what the bond yields are. I'm sure that they're inverting. In fact, I am fairly confident that that would be true. Bond yield inversions are usually a strong indication of recessions. Yeah, it's just crazy, man. Fucking crazy. Um, Interesting. I guess we'll cover this too. I've been seeing here. I've been seeing a lot of news recently about China, and I figured I would, I guess, get the scoop on what's happening. China said it was conducting military exercises um, Saturday off its coast opposite Taiwan after warning Pelosi to scrap possible plans to visit the island democracy, which Beijing claims as part of its territory. What is this referring to? Oh, there's no reason for China and U.S. to come to blows should the House Speaker Pelosi visit Taiwan. So I suppose Pelosi has indicated that they would be visiting Taiwan. Okay. The ruling Communist Party's military wing, the People's Liberation Party, was conducting live fire exercises near the Pentagon Islands off Fujian province. The official. Okay. Okay. Such exercises usually involve artillery. The one sentence announcement gave no indication whether Saturday's exercise also might include missiles. Okay. Yeah, the extent to which China will invade Taiwan, I think it's more real than people give it. You know, I think it's more of a possibility than people think. Because with this, it's like with Russia invading Ukraine, I think the preconditions for Russia getting fucked by the EU and NATO um, are different than if China were to invade Taiwan. Um, if China, first off, Taiwan, there's a lot of fucking people that live in Taiwan. In fact, if we just like look at Taiwan for a second, how many people live there? Can I get like a can I get like a stats population May 2022 estimate 23 million. That's a lot of fucking people. The density, it's the 10th densest. Is it the? Does that mean it's the 10th densest populated region in the world. That's kind of crazy. I mean, Taiwan is really small, isn't it? I mean, look at that shit. The density, where did it say that again? 650 km squared. Oh, I don't know what that means, unfortunately. I'm too stupid to understand it. But they have a high GDP. Yeah. I mean, this is a really highly urbanized like area. In the early 1960s, I guess it's kind of, let's get some lore on Taiwan. Uh, let's get some lore on this shit. But first, let me do something. Um, damn it. Give me one moment, please. Just want to change something real quick. Okay. Let's get some lore. Let me show my screen again. Let's get some lore on Taiwan, okay? Let's learn. Um, Taiwan has been settled for the last 25,000 years. Ancestors of Taiwanese indigenous peoples settled the island around 6,000 years ago. In the 17th century, large-scale Han Chinese immigration to western Taiwan began under a Dutch colony and continued under the Kingdom of Tonkin. What is that again? By the British, was a dynasty maritime state that ruled part of the southern. Okay, yeah, okay. The island was annexed in 1683 by the Qing dynasty of China and ceded to the Empire of Japan in 1895. That's interesting. The Republic of China, which had overthrown the Qing in 1911. Ooh, the 1911 Revolution. I feel like that would be interesting to read up on. Mm, excuse me. Took control of Taiwan on behalf of allies of World War II, following the surrender of Japan in 1945. The resumption of the Chinese Civil War resulted in ROC's loss of mainland China and to the forces of the Chinese Communist Party, and a consequent retreat to Taiwan in 1949. And its effective jurisdiction has since been limited to Taiwan and smaller islands. So in the 1960s, Taiwan entered a period of rapid economic growth and industrialization called the Taiwan Miracle. Okay, that's cool. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, the ROC transitioned from a one-party military dictatorship to a multi-party democracy with a semi-presidential system. Taiwan's export-oriented industrial economy is the 21st largest in the world by nominal GDP and the 20th largest by PPP measures. Okay. It is a developed country. That's worth noticing. Um, it's highly ranked in civil liberties, healthcare, and human development. That's good. So the political status is contentious, however. The RC no longer represents China as a member of the United Nations after UN members voted in 1971 to recognize the PRC instead. The ROC maintained its claim of being the sole legitimate representative of China in its territory, although this has been downplayed since its democratization in the 1990s. Taiwan is claimed by the PRC, which refuses diplomatic relations with countries that recognize the ROC. Taiwan maintains the official diplomatic relations. Yeah, basically, Taiwan. Um, basically, China wants Taiwan, and Taiwan wants to be independent. Yeah, I mean, it's somewhat highlighted here. Domestically, the major political contention is between parties favoring eventual Chinese unification and promoting a pan-Chinese identity, contrasted with those aspiring to formal international recognition and promoting a Taiwanese identity. Into the 21st century, both sides have moderated their positions to broaden their appeal. Well, of course, they have to, right? Wow, we can really get in depth here if we wanted to. Um, the main thing right now in terms of today, I think it's so one reason I know that China is obsessed with annexing Taiwan or wanting Taiwan to reunify with the mainland is because of the trade routes that exist in the South China Sea. That is certainly an element, you know, that is taking place here. Um, if we go into the history of Taiwan, I think we can see some interesting things. I won't read all this shit, but maybe I'll read a little bit. I can just skim it. Um, Around 6,000 years ago, Taiwan was settled by farmers. Okay, they are believed to be ancestors to today's Taiwanese indigenous peoples whose languages belong to the Australian. Okay, language family. What is that exactly? Language of family widely known through maritime southeast. Okay, so it's like a language basically, which spans a huge area from the maritime. Okay, gotcha. Han Chinese fishermen began settling in the Penghu Islands in the 13th century. Hostile tribes and a lack of valuable trade products meant that few outsiders visited the main island until the 16th century. Cool. Cool. The Dutch East India Company attempted to establish a trading outpost in the Penghu Islands in 1622, but was driven off by Ming forces. Is this like a whole thing? The Sino-Dutch conflicts were a series of conflicts between the Ming dynasty of China and a Dutch East India Company over trade and land throughout the 1620s, 1630s, and 1666. The Dutch were attempting to compel China to accede, uh, the Dutch were attempting to compel China to accede to their trade demands, but the Chinese defeated the Dutch forces. Okay, so some conflicts with the Dutch. Okay, cool. After being ousted from Taiwan, the Dutch allied with the new Qing dynasty in China after against the Zhang regime in Taiwan. Following some skirmishes, the Dutch retook the northern fortress at Keelung in 1664. Zhang Jing sent troops to dislodge the Dutch, but they were unsuccessful. The Dutch held out. Okay. Until 1668, when yeah. Okay, eventually they basically. So basically, this is. It sounds like in this earlier time, the Dutch were trying to use the land for a trade outpost, and they were successful in some respects, but eventually they got kicked out. If I'm dramatically oversimplifying this. So during the Qing rule from 1683 to 1895, which is a long time, following that defeat, the dynasty annexed Taiwan, making it a prefecture of Fujian province while retaining its administrative seats under, yeah. The Qing imperial government tried to reduce piracy and vagrancy in the area, issuing a series of edicts to manage immigration and respect aboriginal land rights. I believe during this time, keep in mind that feudalism was still prevalent around this time. I think capitalism only started to begin taking shape in the late 18th century. I could be wrong though. Yeah, but it's just worth keeping that in mind. the border between tax-paying lands and what was considered savage lands shifted eastward, with some. Well, that kind of makes sense because eastward would be further away from the mainland, which would have been more industrialized or whatever. Even though I think industrialized is a wrong word to use, but yeah, just more like established settlements and shit. During this time, there were a number of conflicts between different ethnic groups of Han Chinese, feuding with these peoples, and a major clan fights between. Okay, so there's a lot of skirmishes and infighting taking place on Taiwan. Mm. It reminds me. This reminds me of. This reminds me of like how it's interesting looking back because like you kind of get a sense of how people respond to different groups of people. Um, like in America right now, there's unfortunately a good chunk of people who resent immigrants, especially those that are coming from Mexico. And I think that like in some respects, this is like similar, just based upon the fact that like they're different ethnic groups fighting with each other. um, Back then, it was more like the way like you looked more than anything else, not even just culturally, just the way you looked. It was more, I think, concrete in that respect. But I just think that there's some parallels to be drawn with this because humans have not really changed that much in terms of how they see others, right? I mean, like there's been significant advances. Don't get me wrong, but there's still a good chunk of people who are intolerant of others just based upon their ethnicity. There were more than 100 rebellions, riots, and instances of civil strife during the King administration. Their frequency was evoked by the common saying, every 3 years an uprising, every 5 years a rebellion, primarily in reference to the period between 1820 and 1850. These conditions notwithstanding, the production of sugar became profitable on the island, and together with rice provided surpluses for export to the mainland. Meanwhile, a rapidly increasing population settled the western coastal areas. Northern Taiwan and the Penghu Islands were a sense of subsidiary campaigns in the Sino-French War, which was a war was it was a limited conflict fought from August 1884 to April 1885. There was no declaration of war. Military, it was a stalemate. Okay, interesting. So the French. This was during like dramatic imperialism too from Europe. French. I think the French controlled and occupied. There's some country in Southeast Asia I cannot remember. I think it was Vietnam or oh man, God, I can't remember. But there's some Southern East Asian uh, country that the French were invested in heavily. It might have been Cambodia. I don't remember. Okay. In 1887, the king upgraded the island's administration, being Taiwan. Wait, hold on. This was Japanese rule. Okay, so basically here there was rebellions and shit. Again, oversimplified, but yeah. So there's been a lot of contention here with China or with Japan. Seems as though Japan used the island as a means of the jumping off into China and Southeast Asia to invade certain regions for the purpose, at the behest rather of nationalism and shit. This just mm, seems like seems like this was ceded to Japan, and Japan utilized this as a means of the war effort in World War II. I think, yeah. This one's a little more recent, and this seems a little more apropos to today. Republic of China. Um, man, there's a lot of shit here. Jesus. The Nanjing Decade is an informal name for the decade from 27 to 37 in the Republic of China. It began with a nationalist. Uh, okay. Wow. I am my American chauvinism is showing here. You know, like I don't know jack shit about this. God, there is so much. Hmm. Okay, there's a lot to read here. I don't. I mean, I don't want to make this a whole research stream or anything. I just kind of wanted like a general sense of its history. Okay, so in 1988, the first person who was born in Taiwan became president. So that's cool. Lee continued the democratic reforms. So is it so basically Taiwan at some point started democratizing, um, which is nice because I like democracy. Reforms continued in the 1990s, of course. In 2000, the Democratic Progressive Party was elected president. Okay. Yeah. So basically, yeah. Okay. Gotcha. The geography is also interesting. I think, wow, look at that. Wait, hold on. Look at this photograph of Taiwan. First off, that's a dope picture of like a satellite picture, but that's crazy. A lot of it is very mountainous, and most of the people live on this coast here. These coasts, like 23 million people. That's like an insane amount of people. The political and legal statuses of Taiwan are contentious. China claims that Taiwan is Chinese territory and that itself has been replaced by the ROC government in 1949, becoming a sole legal government of China. The ROC, however, has its own currency, widely accepted passport, postage stamps, a lot, or yada yada yada. Yeah, Taiwan is in every respect a separate entity from China. I mean, it has its own currency, its own military. Yeah, it has not formally renounced its claim to the mainland, but ROC government publications have increasingly downplayed this historical claim. I think I read that before, but yeah. Um, yeah, the PRC has indicated certainly that they are willing to use military force to get Taiwan. So that's not good. Yeah, basically, the thing here is basically that China wants Taiwan for trade reasons and and for historical reasons, like blood and soil shit. Taiwan, um, Taiwan seems to want sovereignty, and in every respect, it already has achieved this. But unfortunately, due to its geography, it is at risk to China invading more so than like other countries. Um, and the United States has a friendly relationship with Taiwan. The United States does sell them a shit ton of weapons, and this and of course contributes to the military industrial complex. I mean, that it would be not fair to include that piece of information. I think, But at the end of the day, it seems as though the people, um, or Taiwanese citizens want to retain sovereignty. So I think that that is what should happen. But we'll see how this plays out. I mean, like, this isn't really like this is not surprising. China announces military. Yeah, it's posturing. They posture a lot, um, and they've been doing military exercises I think for a while now. But I mean, a full scale invasion I think is off the table at this point. It's not out of the realm of possibility, but it's definitely unlikely. Maybe an argument could be made that Russia invading Ukraine, at least at first, emboldened China to take actions or more dramatic actions against Taiwan. But with the way in which the world has responded to Russia, I think that China is a little more cautionary with Taiwan. Also, the calculus, just politically, militarily, and economically, is completely different with China and Taiwan than it is with Russia and Ukraine. So, yeah, a lot of variables to consider. However, the bottom line being that this is just, again, more posturing from China, and that's about it. So, yeah. God, it's like the worst spot to be in. Sorry about the camera, by the way. The noise, I know there's like kind of annoying. The noise here that you can see. I can try to. Oh, that just makes it worse. No, that's perfect. Makes it a little better. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I needed like an actual camera, like a better one. Mm. Yeah, I need like be pogs like because I stream from my wait. Okay. That was really weird. I'm just looking at my hand. It's weird. I need a stream from like so I stream currently from my laptop. So that is why the video is so fucking bad. I also am using this cheap ass mic. I mean, that's setup. My setup is like ghetto. But it's the best I can do because I'm a poor boy. I'm not a top G, as some people say. Yeah. Well, anyway. Oh, what else? Oh yeah. There's this thing I was working on. This like little project. I feel like I feel inclined to share it. Oh, you know what? Before we do that, before I do that, oh yeah, okay. Before we even get into that, I gotta go over this thing with DeSantis. Okay, let's go. What's up now? So DeSantis, citing a 1947 law on cross-dressing, seeks to revoke a restaurant's liquor license after a video surfaced of children attending a drag brunch. So Governor Ron DeSantis filed a complaint against a Miami restaurant after children attended a drag show. According to The Hill, the video was posted by Lib to TikTok. Well, of course it was. The restaurant's liquor license could be revoked if the complaint is successful. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has filed a complaint against. Oh yeah, we already read that. In the complaint obtained by the news organization, DeSantis alleged our House violated state law and cited a 1947 state Supreme Court ruling that men impersonating women in a suggestive and indecent fashion is a public nuisance. This is a highly controversial um, ruling here. First off, this ruling is really obscure. Like, how did he even know this? Moreover, this is really transphobic. Um, Also, it's worth mentioning actually because I feel like no one says this. A lot of men who dress up as like who cross dress, right? A lot of men who cross dress are like cisgender and heterosexual, right? I know for like I believe I saw a study a while ago, like a long time ago, that basically said that men who quote unquote impersonate a woman, they're not even trans. And it seems like that this ruling, whatever, 1947, was aimed at targeting trans people. This is such an archaic ruling, though. Um, and this is so vague. Indecent. What is defined as indecent? You know, indecent in 1947 is different from indecent in 2022. All right, I gotta see this video because is it really as bad as people think it is? Just make sure you ahead of the game. Just because we got another girls get the cash shake ass. Ain't no shame, niggas do your thing. Just make sure you ahead of the game. Just because we got another yeah, I think that's inappropriate. 100%, I think. Um, I don't think having a child in, yeah, I don't think having a child in this environment would be appropriate. Keep in mind, however, that a lot of drag shows aren't even necessarily like this. They're not like sexualized like this. It's mostly people dressing up in extravagant whatever outfits. And not just doing like strip shit like this, I guess, but like um you know, doing like stand up and like other shit. It's not just like that, right? I think that this video is unfortunate for it's unfortunately going to negatively portray drag shows as all looking like this. I don't know. Yeah. So anyway, I think that that could be inappropriate. Drag shows have become a target of Republican lawmakers seeking to introduce anti-LGBTQ legislation not only in the state of Florida but across the country. In June, Florida tweeted he would be proposing legislation that would make it a felony and terminate the parental rights of any adult who brings a child to these perverted sex shows. This is what I mean. All these Republicans now, and already, I mean, this only further validates their suspicions, I guess, with respect to drag shows. But they think that all drag shows are perverted sex shows, which is, of course, not the case. Additionally, would it not be the case that if this is a bar that sells liquor and all that, wouldn't like a child like this not even be allowed in? Right? Like I isn't that like the case? Yeah. But no, I think that unfortunately they'll weaponize this in a means of like this just is like another bullshit thing. Again, like going after drag shows. Like they all conservatives, yeah, it's one of the. It's just another like thing for them to like get upset about. Um, but yeah. Anyway, do I think this is an appropriate environment for a child? Well, no, I don't. But do I think that this holistically portrays drag shows? No. Also, no. Um, so yeah, that's really all I have to say about that. But it's just weird. Like the thing that I'm more hung up on with this is like the um this piece of this Supreme Court ruling, men impersonating women, because you could apply this right to any time someone expresses gender nonconforming behavior. This is basically saying that gender nonconforming behavior, specifically with trans women, is is up to scrutiny with respect to it being suggestive and or indecent. Mm. Considering the fact that many Republicans inherently believe that homosexuality is inherently sexual, like gay people are a sexual thing, it would not be surprised me if they have a similar line of reasoning with respect to trans women, that they're inherently suggestive and they're inherently indecent. I mean, they are though. Like that's what they think because they have expressed constantly that like trans people are degenerate because they are a deviation from the natural law. So um, if that's the case, then there of course have to be indecent. So yeah, there's a lot of. I guess the point here is that this is. I mean, a lot of Supreme Court rulings are vague on purpose, but like, um, this is vague to the point where it could be easily weaponized against trans people or anyone who expresses gender nonconforming behavior, um, specifically targeting trans women, though. So that's pro freedom. Oh fuck. Okay, man. There's a lot of been talking a lot, dude. Oh god. All right. I kind of want to cover some fun shit. There's too much bad stuff. Ah. Okay. By the way, my eyes are naturally that blue. That's really not the camera. All right. So let's talk about some football. Now, a lot of you probably don't know, but I am a huge football fan, and specifically, I am a fan of the Browns, Cleveland Browns. And right now in the NFL, there's a lot of the training camp shit, right? So I've just been watching that recently. It's pretty cool. Now I kind of want to watch this video with respect to Deshaun Watson's um, update. I don't know. Okay, hold on one sec. This is Adam Schefter, who is pretty reliable. Yeah, he's an insider. Just curious his perspective here. He gives the latest on the Deshaun Watson situation. So, yeah, a decision seems to be looming pretty soon, but I just want to hear his perspective.
I think there are a lot of people who believe that this upcoming week will be the week that the judge Sue L. Robinson hands down her decision. The NFL has pushed for a lengthy suspension. It would like to see at least a year imposed on Deshaun Watson. the National Football League Players Association has argued that the NFL's bylaws, Constitution, Foundation show that the owners should be held to the highest standard of conduct, and being that there's been no suspensions handed down in recent years to some high-profile owners, why should a player be treated any different than an owner? And so the NFLPA believes that Deshaun Watson's discipline should be minimal. And so the two sides have been arguing, and it's up to the judge to decide. But I think everybody knows and expects that there's going to be some type of suspension. The question is how long.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty... So basically, this update was useless. We all know he's going to get suspended. It's a matter of how long. Yeah. I mean, that's what everyone knows, right? Yeah, I mean, like, look. All we can do is go off of speculation. There's nothing we can do to know for sure, like, he's going to get X amount of games. That's at the... that is of the opinion of Sue Robinson. Now, I don't know how long he's going to... No one knows how long he's going to get suspended. But, like, you know, we can obviously take guesses, right? I think reasonable estimates are between, like, 4 to 8 games. I think that's a reasonable estimate. But we don't know, you know? I mean, like, I have no clue. I have no clue, like, how long he's going to get. My personal opinion... I feel like it's 8. It's going to be 8 games. But I don't know, man. I don't fucking know. So that's where we're at right now. Yeah, so I also, I kind of want to share with you all a little project I was conducting recently. Yeah, let me show you all. Now this was, oh God, where was it? This was, this, I feel like this just goes to show you how autistic I am. Alright, one sec. Okay, I know it's gonna look like that, but hear me out here. Okay, I hope you can see this. No? You can't? Wait. Oh, God almighty. I mean, because you should be able to see it. Okay, it looks like you could probably see it. Alright, I was recently doing a study on Baker Mayfield, who is the Cleveland Browns' former quarterback. Now, what am I doing? Well, I'm examining the accuracy of Baker Mayfield. There's a lot of contention there, at least there was, with respect to Baker's accuracy as a quarterback, as a Cleveland Brown. And in light of the Watson trade and subsequent Baker Mayfield trade to Carolina, there's been some, I feel as though there's been some revisionist history, you know, with Baker Mayfield. A lot of people seem to think that he's all of a sudden like this amazing quarterback or something. I don't know. At least people think, at the very least, there are people who are giving more praise to him than they used to, and it seems as though this is more on account of spiting Deshaun Watson than it is accurately reflecting upon Baker Mayfield's history. So, I felt it apropos to look at Baker Mayfield's accuracy and examine that, right? Now, this doesn't even take into account certain other elements, right? Like, it doesn't take into account injuries. It doesn't take into account, um, it doesn't take into account, like the different offensive schemes he had to adjust to in the first couple years in the NFL. This is simply looking at three metrics: completion percentage, drop percentage from wide receivers, and bad percentage, which are bad throws. Now, a bad throw. By the way, these metrics are all taken from Pro Football Reference, which is a website that's pretty like good in terms of data compiling. One of the metrics is bad percent, and that is directly from Pro Football Reference. And bad percent refers to any throws that are inaccurate to the that are uncatchable with normal efforts. This is really subjective. I understand that, but I think that it's better than nothing. You know, it's better than literally not taking it into account. And every quarterback is subjugated to the same standard that bad percent arbitrarily defines. So I think it's not like a totally useless metric. The more, of course, pertinent thing here is the comp percent. The drop percent is relevant insofar as controlling for drops, because if like Baker throws an accurate pass that gets dropped, I mean that could not be fair. This is assuming that all drops are accurate, and they must be to some extent, or at least in its entirety, given the fact that it was dropped. If it wasn't dropped, if it was inaccurate enough to where it couldn't have been dropped in the first place, then that would have been constituted as a bad throw. So what is the point of this? Really, and I mean, I made a Reddit post examining this, and I went into detail there, but I guess I'll go into detail with this. The point of this, really, as a Browns fan at least, is to get a retrospective, right, on Baker, because he was our first round pick in 2018. And he was able to lead the Browns to their first playoff win since 1994. And I think that's worthy of something, right? At least in the 21st century, he has been a he's a major player. He's been a major player for the Browns, you know. In terms of major, I mean like he's been very influential. But anyway, so I compared him. The way I did this is I compared him to 15 quarterbacks, a sample of 15 quarterbacks in the league. Now these quarterbacks weren't necessarily arbitrarily defined. I chose quarterbacks that had a minimum of 100 pass attempts, and then I examined their statistics here: the drop, bad, and comp percents. So if we look down, Carson Wentz, Lamar Jackson, Kirk Cousins, Tannehill, arbitrarily, to some extent. But if we look at it here, 65% comp percent, 17.19% bad percent, and then 4.676 drop percent. These are the means. And then for Baker, 4.76% mean drop percent. Mean bad percent is 17.19. Mean comp percent is 65. So his average Or excuse me, this is actually for the NFL. These are for the sample I chose for Baker's right here. Excuse me. So his bad percent is higher than the mean for the sample size I took. His con percent is lower than the sample I took, and then the drop percent is higher. So basically, after doing this, after compiling this information, I did some one-tailed and two-tailed t-tests. And with con percent, this is the most important one. We look at the one and two tails, and because alpha was arbitrarily designated as 0.05 for this specific study, these results are statistically significant because this is 1%, 1.97%. This is 3.95%. So because it's less than the alpha is a significant result. Degrees of freedom of 4, yeah. You get the means right there, yeah. This is for comp percent, of course. For drop percent, it's statistically insignificant. For bad percents, it's statistically insignificant. Now, here's the problem with the study, okay? Now, you all probably don't give a shit, but I do, because I care about I really enjoy analyzing stats. But unfortunately, there's a couple of errors on this study that several people pointed out, and I think that it is worth mentioning. And because of these errors, a follow-up study would need to be conducted, I think. The most pressing error here is the sample size. Now, in statistics, it's important to take a sample of 10% or less of the population. However, the sample I took exceeds that 10% condition. Therefore, the results I'm using here aren't necessarily indicative. Like the statistical analysis I can use isn't really necessarily useful. It's useful a little bit, but it's to the point where because of the sample size, it's not really useful, I guess. So that's the biggest issue with this study, I think, is the sample size I took. There's some other complaints I've received from Reddit because that's where I posted it. One of which was, why didn't I take the EPA per pass? And I still kind of hold true to this, is EPA doesn't seem to be a valid thing against when measuring like measuring accuracy. It's more so points. So that's why. Anyway, the long and short of it, the conclusion I drew upon from this study was that Baker was about average in terms of accuracy, maybe a little less. If it weren't for 2021, I think he would have been a little above average. But that's basically it. I think that a follow-up study would be needed, though, to look at the population, because that could sway the results in a meaningful capacity. But yeah, just figured I would show this. I think another study I could do is performing a regression analysis on Baker, or I could do it on anyone else. I could do it on anyone really, but doing a regression analysis to see how a certain individual will be performing in the future, I guess, and future seasons. Now, this could be done on Baker. However, it could also be done on really anyone that we want to figure out how they're going to perform moving forward. I think Deshaun Watson could be a good case study for that, definitely, because he's been out of the league for since 2020. So, yeah. And I'm also doing another study. Well, it's not really even a study, it's more of an analysis. But an analysis of the Browns as a whole. Like, I have like a spreadsheet also for like their passing. I still have to make their rushing sheet, but I have a point sheet as well, and I'm going to examine how they perform relative to certain variables such as weather, home and away, um, starting quarterback, shit like that. So, anyway, this is me nerding out a little bit too much. I'm sure a lot of people here are uninterested in. Oh shit. We're gonna cover this now. I'm sure a lot of people are uninterested in sports here. There's very little to no overlap with sports and politics. The communities rather. Oh my god, my coffee's all cold now. All right. So I just saw this. I thought it was worth mentioning. Our two buddies here, Manchin and Sinema, the two real lefties in Congress, they are supposedly on a collision. This is an interesting framing. um, Manchin and Sinema are on a collision course over closing a tax loophole for rich Americans. It could upend Biden's $790 billion deal. Oh, buddy. Oh, yeah, that's another thing I have to cover. I got to cover the Inflation Act. Oh, fuck. And I got to cover the midterm polling. Oh. Okay. It's all good. Let's start with this, though. Okay. Manchin and Sinema are about to collide on a tax loophole affecting wealthy investors. Manchin wants to close carried interest, but Sinema may knock the change out of the bill. It's possible Democrats will wait days, if not weeks, before Sinema breaks her silence. Great. Joe Manchin of West Virginia stunned many by striking an agreement for a $790 billion climate, healthcare, and tax package. Striking. Does that mean he struck it down? I vaguely remember this. Strikes. Okay, like he passed it. The legislation is much bigger than most Democrats thought possible. Only 2 weeks ago, when Manchin appeared to take climate programs and tax hikes off the table, citing growing fears about fueling inflation. This is nonsensical. There is investing in climate programs and shit. Yeah, I don't know. He just wants more funding from the fossil fuel industry. Is why he's opposed to climate programs and shit. But the most carefully negotiated deals can still be upended in an environment where no margin of error exists. Manchin is on a collision course with Christian Sinema of Arizona over a small part of the bill. The pair disagree on a carried interest, a loophole in the tax code that mostly benefits wealthy investors and hedge fund managers. So wait, hold on. They disagree. The pair disagree on carried interest. Is the thing trying to close that loophole? Yeah, it seems like they're against closing the loophole. Okay. Eliminating carried interest is the goal that's eluded both Republican and Democratic administrations for a decade. It's the percentage of profits that hedge fund managers receive from lucrative investments. But that compensation is taxed at a lower capital gains rate that tops out at 23.8% and doesn't face a higher income tax rate like most Americans pay on their wages. Critics argue it amounts to a huge gap in the tax code. Yeah, that makes sense. And there's a lot of loopholes and sussy shit in the tax code every year. A lot of it gets disproportionately benefits rich people. So no surprise. Sinema was cut out of private negotiations between Manchin and the majority leader, Chuck Schumer. It reportedly prompted her to ask fellow senators what's going on. Okay. Manchin has expressed strong support for the measure and doesn't seem inclined to drop it. Last year, he joined the two Senate Democrats in sponsoring a bill limiting carried interest. The only thing I was adamant about was the carried interest, he told reporters. Okay. Sinema is known to harbor objections to narrowing carried interest per Democratic aid. Familiar? Yeah, that makes sense. You know, they're very pro. They're corrupt, is what it is. Yeah, they want because these people are donating to like these their own like yeah. I mean, this is so corrupt. It's crazy. Yeah. Elizabeth Warren is saying that they're doing exactly the right thing by including it. Yeah. Sinema's office said in a statement that she is still reviewing the 720. Okay. Schumer declined to comment on Thursday whether he's kept it. Okay. Oh, sorry. You can see me. Give me 1 second, okay? One moment. All right, I am back. I apologize for the inconvenience there. I had to take a phone call, but we are here. We are back. Okay. Yeah, I was just in the middle of reading that. I think we kind of addressed that article with Mansion and Cinema. They're basically like trying to make it easier for rich people to be rich. Oh, this is cool. I just saw this. Like, um, just saw this on Twitter. Our good old friend Socialist MMA. Is this an actual tweet? The U.S. is trying to start World War III over Taiwan. The U.S. is a psychopathic country. The only thing that has prevented World War III has been the unbelievable restraint of countries like Iran, China, and Russia. This is insane. Complete and utter nonsense. Um, the fact that this is, with respect to the Russia part of his statement, this is, of course, a deference to a NATO encroachment, that argument that apparently Russian apologists are still trouting out there. I thought that was like done. Like they just moved off that point, but I guess they're sticking to it. With China, it's Taiwan, of course, but I don't really know what they're referring to specifically. There has been some more aggressive rhetoric utilized by Biden with that, I think. I know recently there was a thing with. Sorry, I thought I heard something. I know there's been more aggressive rhetoric from Biden, but also there was shit recently with Nancy Pelosi. But this is, of course, not provoking World War III. Also with Iran, I don't know what the fuck that's referencing. I truly don't actually. Um, because we like pulled out of the Middle East. Well, didn't fully pull out, but we pulled out of Afghanistan recently. So I don't know what the fuck that's referencing. Like what the fuck is this? Like, please, yeah, tell me you understand. Tell me you don't know anything about geopolitics without telling me you don't know anything about geopolitics. Like, it makes no sense. But I mean, like all the countries he referenced here are like authoritarian, are authoritarian countries, right? China, Iran, Russia. Yeah, it's funny. Like the onus of responsibility with respect to military aggression is on the United States and not the countries that are actively trying to invade another nation. I vis-a-vis China with Taiwan and Russia currently with Ukraine. But again, and as is always the case with these people, it's always America bad. That is their only politics. Everything can be reduced down to that axiomatic belief, I think. So there you go. Okay. Let's see. I kind of feel like playing some games. I don't know, guys. What do you think? I kind of feel like doing that. I was going to go over some monkeypox bullshit because, like, yeah, but maybe I'll do it another stream. Conservatives, right? The long and short of that segment is basically that Republicans are using monkeypox or they're weaponizing it in the same vein that Reagan weaponized AIDS to disproportionately target and justify the discrimination of gay people. That's basically what's going on with monkeypox right now, at least, because it is a common misconception right now that monkeypox is an STD. This is, of course, not the case because you can contract it through droplets. It's completely like incoherent. The propaganda out there, but it's just being propped up. Monkeypox specifically is being propped up as a means of justifying like. It's also now I think about it more. It's also being used for like the grooming talking points, right? Because I saw this actually I saw this recently. This like political. Let me see if I can find it to illustrate the point. It's really fucked up. Yeah, here it is. Whoops. So this cartoon. Hey, what's up, My Groomer? Hold on, comrade. It's problematic to use a hard R words like that. Oh, sorry. And who's this handsome young man? My stepson. Don't mind his little frown. He caught monkeypox somehow. Yeah. Of course, the implication here being that that all gay people are pedophile rapists, um, and that only gay people can contract monkeypox. So yeah, I wonder where in history we've witnessed such parallels. I feel like it's sometime in the 1980s, but I can't put my finger on what. Okay. Yeah, that's a really fucked up image, by the way. But this feeds into the grooming rhetoric because a lot of conservatives believe inherently that uh, all gay people are groomers and pedophiles and whatever. I don't know. So, all right, enough of that. Let's get into. Oh, there's one more thing I would like to cover. We're gonna go look at how the polling is doing right now for the midterms. All right, here we go. What's up? All right, let's look at the Senate forecast. Democrats will win 56 and 100 times. Republicans will win 44 and 100 times. Democrats are slightly favored to win the Senate. That's good because they're highly likely to win the House, right? Am I not mistaken? No, Excuse me, Republicans are. Okay, I was the opposite. We can look at some key things here. Some of the closest ones here, Georgia with Warnock and Walker. Yeah, let's see an update on this. Oh, it's 50-50. Interesting. I mean, this is damn close, man. I mean, if Warnock could pull out a win here, that would be awesome, of course. But the polling seems to indicate that it is neck and neck. GA2, 2nd District. It's not even close. Governorship. Stacey Abrams is getting blown the fuck out, at least right now she is. Polling, yeah, I mean, like, this is one that's pretty secure, locked up. Oh, yeah, let me go back here. In Ohio, let's see how J.D. Vance is doing. Ooh, okay. J.D. Vance got 78 and 100 times. Tim Ryan and 22 and 100 times. I still can't believe how, like, one-sided this is. I understand that Ohio's become, like, deeply red, but Tim Ryan has that name recognition. He is, I believe, the incumbent. Like, he is, this is, like, overwhelming, you know? J.D. Vance is, like, newer to the race, so that's surprising. A lot of these polls have him leading, but they're not necessarily the most reliable, I guess. Well, they're good, but not great, I guess. It's still close. The polling at least suggests that that's the case. Yeah, I think that it's reasonable to conclude that JD Vance is going to win this, but it's we still have some time. I don't know. Marcy Captor's slightly favored, and OH9. Yeah, that's good. I don't know what the numbers were the last time we looked, but a slight favorite, which is good, I guess, better than being a slight underdog. Wow, look at that. There's a major shift in June, and then there's a major shift again in July. Now the margin is splitting pretty dramatically. This has to correspond with spending or something major that happened. I don't know what that thing was, but yeah. Okay. Any other key races? I think Nevada was another one that was pretty close. Yeah. Nevada, Senate, Catherine Cortez. We see that they are slightly favorite over Adam. Same pattern here, June. It looks like something general happened that led to this gap. Either that or there was a... Yeah, I don't know. But this has been fucking neck and neck. It seems to be splitting a little bit here. But we still have... There's still time for that to change. Cortez is leading in a pretty reliable poll from Emerson. +3. Jesus, +21. University of Nevada. Okay, well, that explains it. Well, this is so far we have a pretty... Seems like Catherine has a good chance here, but I'm not really sure the dynamics of this race or any of these races. This is more of me taking like a broader look at things. We need basically, generally speaking, higher voter turnout is good disproportionately for Democrats. So hopefully we can have a high voter turnout. So that's what we're crossing our fingers on here. The governors. Is this the incumbent? Steve Siliosk or whatever? Who's the incumbent in this race? It doesn't say. I feel like I mean, I could look it up, I guess, but... And another House thing, Susie Lee is favored to win. Slightly favored to win. I mean, every dub we can get is important, honestly. All right, so Nevada has a lot of close races. That's worth acknowledging. Mark Kelly is slightly favored to win the Senate. Huh. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. This one could be something to watch out for too, because it could change. Well, it looks like it's trending in the opposite direction, so maybe not. Yeah, this one looks pretty clear for Mark Kelly. Any... Whatever Pennsylvania... Yeah, I want to see... Yeah, this one. Fetterman is leading pretty... Well, slightly, but that's pretty good. Whether the extent to which this will change, I don't know if it's going to change significant enough for where Oz can win, but we'll see. Fetterman has that candor, you know, he has that appeal that I think is worth highlighting. Shapiro is also favored to win, which is good. PA 8, Cartwright slightly went. There's a lot of like close house races. Yeah, look at that. Wow, look at that cap. Jesus, 74. Jesus. This is actually slowing. That gap is coming closer. So that's interesting. All right. Whoops. Yeah, that's interesting. Give me 1 second. I gotta go figure out what my cats are doing. Okay. Yeah, so I'm surprised by this race. Like, I don't want to get too optimistic here, but I'll I'll inject some hopium into y'all. This is trending downward generally. So something is changing right now that's benefiting Susan Wild. I mean, look, it could just be me being too optimistic. Um, this is still a anyone. I feel like this is still anyone's race here. We'll see how that plays out in the 7th district. But I hope to God Fetterman can maintain the lead for a long period of time. And again, all this doesn't mean anything if voter turnout isn't at sufficient levels. So that needs to be the case. um, yeah. Okay. Is there anything else in Washington? Interesting. Oh, I guess there's nothing really there. Yeah, a lot of this is more so me observing the what do you call it? The Senate race because it's so close. The House is pretty overwhelming. Is there anywhere else? Oh yeah, did I look at Arizona? Yeah, I think I did. Pennsylvania. Yeah, so the main ones to look out for, in my opinion, is Georgia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Arizona, and Nevada. That seems to be the main areas. Yeah. All right. Well, so far, it seems like generally the forecast has remained the same. However, there are trends indicating a slight favor, a slight advantage towards Democrats. We're observing somewhat of a trend in that direction, but for the most part, the races have maintained basically the same results, I guess. The gaps are closing in some respects, but not significantly enough, I think. All right. Cool. All right. Well, what's next on the agenda? There was a video I did want to watch. Hmm. I'm just trying to remember what it was. Hmm. Oh God. You know what? I did kind of want to play Sid Meier's Civ, but or Civilization 6, but I don't know, dude. It's gonna be like too. I don't want to risk it crashing the stream. It's not worth it, I think. Yeah. Hmm. Oh, what? Okay. Okay, hold on. I gotta, Alright, so we're gonna watch a couple of... God, oh my god, this is... This is, This is wild. Okay, we're gonna watch a couple videos here from our good old friend Michael Knowles. Now, why am I doing this? Because it's always good to get your fix every now and again. And by fix, I mean responding to and thoroughly debunking the radicalism of the far right, because they tend to propagate a lot of not just conspiracy theories, but um, blatantly bigoted and demonstrably untrue uh, claims and arguments. Oh, so I don't know. It's like you're. I don't even know. Like, all these videos are insane. Why the left is terrified of Christian nationalism. Um, why are parents doing this? The uncomfortable truth about monkeypox. A sane society would be demanding answers. Did anyone else notice this with Biden? I'm tempted to watch this one, honestly. We don't have time for all of it, but I feel like maybe watching one or two. I'm interested. Sir, I'm definitely interested in this for the lols, for the LOLs, but I don't have the time to expend upon the monkeypox thing because I feel like it's just going to be like homophobic conspiracy bait. Um, okay, let's just watch this. All right. Oh boy, this is going to be rough.
Not look like he's long for this presidency. Joe Biden doesn't look like he's long for this world. Joe Biden just gave an update last night. He was giving an update on January 6th and trying to ramp up his attacks about the Republicans and Trump in January 6th. The guy gave a zombified press conference that made you think the man is not well.
You can't be pro-insurrection and pro-cop. You can't be pro-insurrection and pro-democracy. You can't be pro-insurrection and pro-American. Donald Trump lacked the courage to act. The brave women and men all across this nation should never forget that.
So forget for a second that his voice is just completely different than it normally is. He sounds like...
I just remembered the fucking... Oh my god, hold on one second. Hold on one second. I just remembering this fucking... this post I saw, dude. And this was like a real, like, take that some people have, I guess. Who's behind the mask? Or is it CGI? Oh my god. This is referring, of course, to that speech. I'm sorry, but like, at what point do we just attribute conservatism to mental illness? This is like... I don't even... I mean, like, I'm laughing just by the... It's so absurd that it's, like, comical. You know? They really think there's, like... I don't know. There's some faction of the far right who I think sincerely believe that... that, like... That this fucking... this fucking... the speech from Biden was, conducted by a cyborg or something. I don't know. They're fucking crazy.
Print than it normally is. He sounds like Joe Biden doing one of those anonymous interviews that gangsters do, where they gotta mess up the voice. He's got the voice
Very
is all
funny.
crazy. But then the weirdest part of the interview, or the press conference rather, is that he doesn't blink. That whole talk, he doesn't blink once. His eyes are super wide.
Do you guys remember when I mentioned, I don't know if it was last stream or the stream before that, but Republicans in the far right, I think I was mentioning this within the context of the Jimmy Dore video about AOC. The far right tends to like focus on trivial things, and usually it's concentrated towards the way in which certain politicians behave or act that isn't necessarily like important. So, for example, Michael Knowles here is analyzing Biden's like the way in which he is presenting himself, giving his speech, I guess, or whatever. And with Jimmy Dore, it was focusing on AOC faking being handcuffed. Like, they focus on such trivial bullshit, and I feel like it's purposeful because they do it. I feel like it's like, it's just to take pot shots at them, at just their character. It is to degrade them as a human being. And I don't mean that I'm not being hyperbolic when I say this, because when you look at people and you deeply analyze like the stupid, like you basically portray them as being dumb or whatever, you're basically attempting to make it seem as though they are like, not just like that they're like socialists or whatever, like they're trying to like upend like our society, but like that they're also just blatantly stupid. It's kind of like this. One of the things about fascism, or fascists rather, is to both portray your opponents as both very powerful and very stupid and weak-minded and weak-spirited and things like that. And the way in which that manifests with the alt-right is by focusing on these trivial things, like Joe Biden, the way in which he presented himself with this speech, and with of course with Jimmy Dore, it was with respect to the AOC being handcuffed. So yeah, I mean, again, I mean, this is basically focusing on trivial matters. However, I think it is important to look at shit like this and respond to it, because just in general with like alt-right figures, because they are slowly radicalizing people. This is part of the alt-right pipeline. An argument could be made, I suppose, that this is like the end state, but man, yeah, a lot of people just focus on, especially the alt-right focuses a lot on trivial things to portray their opponents as stupid and powerful.
Pupils dilated. They're obviously pumping this guy up with something. He's got more energy than he's ever had in a kind of weird, robotic way. He wouldn't be the first Democrat president to be injected with uppers in the White House.
That's the fucking Dark Brandon, dude. I swear, like he is rising. Okay, he is secretly and covertly the ventriloquist to the world's accords, right? He is everywhere. He is omniscient.
John F. Kennedy famously had that happen to him from Dr. Feelgood, and it stands to reason that Joe Biden would need this too. Joe Biden was already 21 years old when President Kennedy was having this happen to him. The man is obviously past his prime. He's obviously...
Wait, I'm sorry. Are we going to neglect the fact that Trump was obviously put on... He certainly has been using drugs during his presidency as well, right? Yeah, like when you get to a certain age, you are certainly going to be like probably like being prescribed shit to be able to present yourself in a certain way. This isn't like new or anything. Like so many people in politics consume illegal drugs. This is not at all like new. So I don't know what. Also, it's worth mentioning, I don't fucking care. If they want to consume drugs, that's their prerogative.
Obviously not in control of himself, much less the country. And it does raise the question, who is calling the shots here. Right now, go to rockauto.com, enter Knowles in their How Did You Hear About Us box.
Wait, is that the video? No way is that the video. No way.
You need rockauto.com. And then be sure to write over
All right, shut up.
puberty blockers and crossbox
Whoa.
so they know
What?
that we sent you. There's been a big debate over puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones and all sorts of weird transgender drugs,
Wait,
not just for adults,
what are we
but
talking
for
about now?
little tiny kids. Puberty blockers, kids can go on those at 8 years old. Okay.
Does he know when puberty? Yeah. Wait. What? Yeah. Yeah. Puberty. Yeah. The point of puberty blockers is to prevent puberty. So, is he? Why is this shocking? That is prescribed before puberty takes place. Does he not know when puberty takes place for humans?
Okay. And there's been a big debate over this, and the White House, the Biden White House, where the assistant
Now, keep in mind the only reason why there is a debate about this is because conservatives are obsessed with politicizing this.
Secretary of Health is a man who thinks that he's a woman, who is very, very in favor of injecting little tiny kids with these sorts of drugs.
Now, I said this in the other stream last week, but I'll say it again here. Notice the terminology he uses here, injecting with. Injection evokes a certain feeling among people, usually a negative one, usually one in which the recipient of said injection is being injected into them against their will. And the basic premise here is to establish a fear response among those watching this. So it's fear-mongering is what's attempting to be achieved here.
And the left-wing establishment, in its entirety, has gotten behind this transing the kids campaign. And then the conservatives said, hey, hold up. I think maybe it's not a great idea to inject tiny little kids with a bunch of chemicals to make them look more like the opposite sex.
Well, children who are prescribed puberty blockers are in consultation with physicians, endocrinologists, and psychiatrists. There are multiple layers to it. It's not as though you can just go to fucking urgent care and ask for a puberty blocker. It doesn't work like that. Also, the standards by which there are certain standards that need to be ascertained before a child can even be prescribed puberty blockers. So it's not like as easy as he's making it sound like it would be.
Maybe we should hold off on this a little bit until there's no way, even if you buy into...
Oh, this is demonstrably untrue, by the way. There have been longitudinal studies conducted upon people who have taken puberty blockers as early as from the 1980s. And at this point in their lives, I believe they would be 40 years old or something. They're totally fine. There's nothing really negatively. There's no negative afflictions associated with being prescribed puberty blockers, at least as far as we know of right now. Now there could be bone density problems, but the only reason why that isn't necessarily an issue for many people who have been put on puberty blockers is because it's not prescribed long enough for it to negatively affect bone density. So, and again, the fact that he's acting like we don't know the long-term effects on this is untrue. We have some evidence out there suggesting that we have conducted longitudinal studies that have suggested that puberty blockers are safe.
Transgenderism, there's no way that this can really be...
Oh, sorry, one last thing. Transgenderism is a dog whistle that was propagated among the conservative community to make it seem like the transgender community are attempting to... It's like an ideology and are attempting to trans the kids. It's predatory. They're trying to make it appear as though that community, the trans community, is predatory in nature vis-a-vis, the usage of transgenderism.
Good for the kids. And the libs said we're anti-science and we're crazy and we're bigots and we're phobic and we're this and we're that. So
where's the why, though?
The FDA earlier this month just added a warning to puberty blockers, specifically to gonadotropin-releasing hormone agonists, GnRH. But
yes.
That's what we're talking about when we talk about puberty blockers. The warning indicates the risks for the little tiny kids who take these drugs. The FDA.
Did you know that Did you know that every drug on the planet has no negative side effects? I mean, believe it or not, every drug that you take there is no side effects whatsoever. Yeah, this is deeply retarded. So the fact that he is suggesting here now, it's not unreasonable to highlight potential negative side effects associated with the consumption of certain drugs, but that's the case with literally every drug. I mean, you have a 1 in 10,000 chance of developing a blood clot if you're using like birth control, for example. I mean, like there's no such thing as a perfectly safe drug. However, based upon the research conducted so far that we have, puberty blockers seem to generally yield net positive results. So I think that not it's not like a terribly harmful drug to prescribe children suffering from gender dysphoria or who are exhibiting gender nonconforming behavior.
They identified 6 cases in females between the ages of 5 and 12 who were taking these puberty blockers, which presented, quote, a plausible association between GnRH agonist use and pseudotumor cerebri. What are pseudotumor cerebri?
Right.
That's also known as idiopathic intracranial hypertension. This means that your brain swells up. That's what's happening when we inject these little kids with the puberty blockers.
Is it? Because it's not. And also, that's not the same thing. So this is, of course, a non sequitur. He's assuming, and rather making a leap in the logic insofar as this small probability of something happening is the same thing as it happening all the time. Just because it can happen, first off, like I mentioned, there's always potential negative side effects associated with drugs, but he's saying that this is what's happening. It's demonstrably untrue. You would need a separate study to make that conclusion. You would need to demonstrate that these children who have been put on puberty blockers are developing these brain swelling, as he put it. You can't just assume because there's a causal relationship that is therefore attributable to the ubiquity of that thing happening.
In enough cases that the FDA now has to add a warning label, kids' skull, the pressure inside kids' skulls spontaneously increases. This causes brain swelling, severe headaches, nausea, double vision, and permanent vision loss.
Cool.
This according to the Mayo Clinic. This according to the FDA. This is what we're doing. When Richard Levine gets up there in his little skirt with his long hair and he says, for my equality, so that I can feel really good about my delusions, we need to pump little tiny confused kids full of drugs that are going to make their brains swell and make them go blind.
It's insane how transphobic he is. Yeah, I mean, like he's incredibly transphobic. It's unbelievable. But I guess, I mean, like at a certain point, like you kind of, it sounds messed up, but you kind of like get accustomed to this transphobia, this level of transphobia. I don't know. I mean, it should never be tolerated. I understand that, and it should always be called out. But it's just like at some point, you have to more so address the central claims being made as opposed to just highlighting the transphobia itself. But yeah, I think that is pretty on the nose, at least right here, insofar as his transphobia.
Say nothing of the other problems that these drugs cause. Because when they get a little bit older and they go into cross-sex hormones, those drugs are causing osteoporosis. They're causing.
Wait, hold on. Okay, I don't think I need to really watch much more of this. I really just wanted to look at the Biden thing, but now we're deviated pretty far off there. I'm a little interested, not gonna lie, in this one. Yeah, why the left is terrified of Christian nationalism. I don't know. This one's shorter. Maybe I'll watch this. He says a lot of dumb fucking shit, so I mean it's pick your poison at this point. It's all good. Oh yeah, Russell Brand has been trending a lot too. Maybe we'll take a look at his shit. I don't necessarily enjoy like focusing my content specifically on reactions, but you know, it is fun every now and again, and it's necessary for praxis reasons.
Everyone was focusing on the latest presidential horse race news over the weekend. Steve Bannon possibly going to jail.
wait, is this going to be anything? Is this going to be about what I think it is? Okay, let's see.
Trump possibly declaring his campaign, Biden's lackeys fighting over who takes the reins when the big guy drops, while everyone was focusing on the big headline news. Most people missed the most disturbing political news story to come up in a very long time, care of CDC Director Rochelle Walensky. 2 little kids just came down with monkeypox.
We have seen now 2 cases that have occurred in children. Both of those children are traced back to individuals who come from the men who have sex with men community, the gay men community. And so when we have seen those cases in children, they have generally been what I call adjacent to the community most at risk.
This is incredibly irresponsible rhetoric. So, first off, monkeypox is not an STD. However, the implication from this is from the CDC. Okay, this is really irresponsible. So what she said here basically implies strongly that that there is a causal relationship between men having sex with one another and the transmission of STD and the transmission of monkeypox. This is incredibly irresponsible. Now, it's not necessarily untrue of a statement. However, the implication is way too broad insofar as it providing credence to homophobes such as Michael Knowles. Like, the gay community is being disproportionately affected from monkeypox, given the fact that they're a high contact community, right? But this is of course, this is really irresponsible rhetoric. So now, of course, we're going to see conservatives run with this, and we're going to have to deal with the consequences, unfortunately.
I should also mention, importantly, those children are doing well.
Doing well? The children are doing well? The children who, for whatever reason, are living with promiscuous homosexual men, according to...
Yeah, again, and I think that this bears repeating because some people don't know it, but whenever conservatives talk about gay people, they always frame it around sex. They think that being gay is inherent. Like, if you're gay, your essence as a human is sexual, and that's just the way they think, I suppose. And the framing here, I think, from Michael Knowles is going to be something similar to that effect.
Federal officials just came down with a dangerous disease, a disease that is, by the way, especially dangerous for children. It's not super dangerous for lots of other people. A disease that you pretty much only get from having sexual contact with gay men who go to orgies.
This is demonstrably untrue. You can contract monkeypox through water. You can contract it through droplets from your spit when you talk to people. You can contract it from touching the sores on monkey, because it's, of course, sores. You can contract it from that. You can contract it from clothing. So it's tactile. It's through the droplets from your mouth. It's very transmissible is the point. Now, the notion here that the framing that he has here in the fact that, like, it's through, like, sex isn't necessarily untrue, but the fact that he is concentrating the effort there implies that it is primarily and almost exclusively relegated to those who have sexual intercourse. This is, of course, demonstrably untrue. In fact, let me prove it, because it's such a false... It's such a false thing that I think it needs to be, like, driven home here. Let's see. Hold on. Yeah, let's start right here. So this is from the CDC. Okay. Monkeypox can spread to anyone through close, personal, often skin-to-skin contact, including direct contact with monkeypox rash. This is what I was mentioning earlier. Body fluids from a person with monkeypox, touching objects, fabrics, and surfaces that have been used with someone with monkeypox. So this seems like the most efficacious vector for for the disease to spread because like touching things is really easy to do. You know, like a piece of like someone's clothing or bedding or whatever. So it's not exclusively through having sex. It can, as highlighted here, but it's not exclusively, and that should be emphasized. Prolonged face-to-face contact, so you don't even have to do anything. Yeah, the point is that it's like you can basically get it like in almost every conceivable way is the point. But what did Michael Knowles say? How did he frame it?
Down with a dangerous disease, a disease that is, by the way, especially dangerous for children. It's not super dangerous for lots of other people. A disease that you pretty much only get from having sexual contact.
Pretty much only get from sexual contact. Again, this is untrue. Remember, touching objects, fabrics, anything like that, being in close contact, these are all equally efficacious ways for the virus to spread. But he said pretty much just sex. This is demonstrably untrue.
With gay men who go to orgies.
Also, it should even if I were to grant this premise, it's not as though like straight heterosexuals don't have anal sex either, you know? So, yeah.
And the kids are doing well? According to recent research in the New England Journal of Medicine, 95% of monkeypox cases have been transmitted through sexual activity. 98% of infected people are gay or bisexual.
Well, isn't there like not a lot of cases right now? I mean, like it's obviously climbing up, but like it depends on when that study was conducted, right? It could have been conducted at the early stages of the disease, which was of course being transmitted because the disease can spread more ubiquitously within a certain community, but then have a spillover effect with other demographics. So I think that the timing of that study is relevant here.
41% of them already have AIDS, HIV, not full-blown AIDS necessarily. The median number of sex partners that the people who are infected with monkeypox have had in the prior 3 months is 5. And a third of them are known to visit orgies and bathhouses.
So even if everything he's saying is completely true, it's worth mentioning that the conclusion he's drawing here doesn't necessarily follow from these premises because, again, monkeypox can be spread not just through sex. It can be spread basically in any capacity.
Of infection. According to our own federal government, 99% of American monkeypox cases involve men who have sex with men.
This is, of course, unsurprising given the fact that the gay community is disproportionately very sexually active, but also very physically touching, right? So this of course makes sense given the nature in which this virus spreads.
Some activist groups are trying to blur this reality, and they're claiming that monkeypox is not a sexually transmitted disease, or they're claiming that it's affecting all sorts of other people, not just...
So he's just lying, basically, yeah. Because it doesn't just spread through... It's not an STD, is what it is, right? It's a virus that can be spread through it can be spread through sex, but it's not exclusively spread through sex.
One group in particular, the data just don't back that up, not even close. Remember when we were supposed to follow the science? Until the science was politically incorrect.
What is he talking about? He's incorrect. We literally just looked it up and proved him wrong. This is all, of course, he's spinning this in a way because he's a conservative and he wants all gay people to die. So it needs to be spun in a very homophobic way, so as to, I guess, justify the discrimination of gay people. Because ultimately, the message being portrayed here is that gay people are pedophiles.
A sane society would be demanding answers here. They would be interrogating the men who gave the kids this STD.
That's not a sane society. That's an authoritarian society, one in which is predicated on the subjugation of gay people and minority groups as a whole.
In society would be demanding the closures of the gay sex clubs where the virus spreads. We just shut down the world for 2 years over a cough that nothing was able to stop.
Wait, is he literally a dumb fuck? I think he really is just a dumb fuck. Does he really think that COVID was just a cough? Oh my god.
Stop anyway, no matter how hard we tried to shut it down. Now we can't shut down a few bathhouses for a little while.
Also, our shutdowns were not necessarily effective because, first off, it took place kind of too late, but also because not everything was completely shut down. There's still areas within the country where, people were able to go and do shit and interact with others. Also, the vaccine wasn't out, so it was easier for people to spread the disease.
Stop an entirely preventable disease that now a couple of kids have somehow? We can't even ask the obvious questions that this bizarre and disturbing story raises. No, it's no big deal. No big deal. The kids are fine.
No one's saying it's not a big deal. But it would be false to suggest that that monkeypox is a sexually transmitted disease, and because of that fact, it therefore means that the children who have monkeypox contracted it from gay people who are pedophiles. Yeah, this would be, of course, demonstrably untrue framing, and that's the issue that many people take with this.
Nothing to see here. Move along, move along.
Wait, and by the way, what is he talking about? No one is suggesting we shouldn't be investigating monkeypox cases, so I don't know what he's referring to.
It's not a big deal. What's the big deal? Move along, move along. It's okay. Everyone's doing fine. Everything's just great. Do things feel just fine and great to you? When you hear a story like this, kids got this STD that you pretty much only get from gay orgies. Little kids got it. And even the CDC is saying they got it from these gay guys who, without answering any of the questions. What's the relationship here? What do you mean household transmission? No, it's okay. Never mind. Don't ask any questions. It's fine.
What is he talking? This is such conspiracy bait. It's that no one is suggesting, again, that these cases don't be investigated. In fact, I think they were, because evidently so, given the fact that this individual from the CDC stated that the children were doing all right. If they're doing all right, then great, right? Of course, this is a dog whistle, because I think that he's suggesting that this is all dog whistles, because what he's not going to say outright, but is going to strongly allude to, is that these gay people, as well as gay people generally, are pedophiles. They are raping children, and the more children who contract monkeypox, the more evident that fact or that reality becomes, apparently. He's not going to say it outright, but that's what he's alluding to strongly here.
Right now, the CDC, the public health authorities, are trying to have it both ways. They're trying to scare everybody about monkeypox and everyone's risk of getting monkeypox, but they can't get...
I'm sorry, but what is the criteria for trying to scare the population? I think all that's happening is that they're warning the public on the transmissibility of this disease, as well as the lethality of it, how dangerous it is. I don't know what he means by trying to scare. Trying to scare implies that it's being done without good reason. I don't know. A lot of conspiracy bait and dog whistling in this.
Past the scientific facts, which is that virtually everyone who's getting this is getting it from promiscuous gay sex.
God.
So then when they say, well, actually, even kids can get monkeypox, the obvious next question is, how? How did that?
Wait, we probably... Does he doesn't know how I think it just comes down to the fact that either he doesn't know how monkeypox is transmitted, or he knows and is purposefully misrepresenting its transmissibility. I feel like it's the latter. In fact, I am fairly confident it is.
That happened. Oh, never mind. Don't ask that question. Just be afraid of this virus. The virus that essentially only affects this one very niche community. No, it's no big deal. Stop asking questions, especially stop asking questions about the sexual revolution. This is something we've heard. It's not just homosexuals. This is something we've heard for 60 years now. At every single stage of the sexual revolution, going all the way back to the 60s, even going back further, at every single stage, people will say, oh, what's the big deal? Come on, what's the big deal? Stop being such a prude. Man, you're such a square. No, it's not. What's the big deal about free love? What's the big deal about promiscuous sex? What's the big deal?
And then we're gonna roll this tirade into traditional values and the importance of maintaining relationships or sexual relationships only to after you are married. Yeah, we're gonna roll into these talking points in a moment here.
Deal about the hookup culture? What's the big deal about?
And then he's going to refer to the fact that STDs and STIs are more prevalent in societies where free love is the popular attitude adopted by the mainstream, and this tears society apart from the seams. This is all going to be. We're going to transition pretty quickly here into Western civilization bullshit.
Ubiquitous contraception and then abortion, which followed shortly thereafter. What's the big deal with redefining marriage? What's the big deal with the transgender movement? What's the big deal if a guy wants to pretend to be a woman? What's the big deal with the guy going into the girls' locker room? What's the big deal with the guy taking the trophies from the women? What's the big deal now with...
How long will he go on? Oh my God, get to the point.
Transing 2-year-olds.
Literally doesn't happen.
2-year-olds, that's the story. Stonewall, which is an LGBT group, just posted over the weekend all this new research. And here's what they said. They said, research suggests that children as young as 2 recognize their trans identity.
How is this the same as transing children? Because by saying transing children, you're implying that a nefarious entity is attempting to instill gender dysphoria among a certain individual or group of people or something, which isn't the case. All this is saying, apparently, is that children as young as 2 recognize that they could be transgender. Yeah, okay. How is that the same as transing children, though?
Yet many nurseries and schools teach a binary understanding of pre-assigned gender.
Well, that's true.
LGBTQ inclusive and affirming education is crucial for the well-being of all young people.
So ultimately, what's being presented here is that, or at least advocated for implicitly, at least, is that younger, like preschool and young education should be breaking away from the mold of a gender binary, and it should be adopting more so it should be including rather a non-binary element to its, like basically representing that element to children as well. It's not just a matter of inclusivity, it's also a matter of normalizing it, so that way trans children feel comfortable and addressing their own identity. So yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all, but Michael Knowles deeply cares about this. He doesn't want children to question their gender identity.
What's the big deal? This would be some of the big deal. This would be part of transing 2-year-olds is part of the big deal. And it's not just the...
Again, this isn't transing anything. This is just saying that trans representation at a young age could be beneficial to those children who are who recognize their trans identity.
Libs who shrug their shoulders and pretend, oh, what's the big deal? It's the squishes. It's the squishy conservatives, even more than the liberals, who are the problem here. The liberals know that this stuff is a big deal. That's why they've been fighting so hard for every aspect of the sexual revolution. Took a lot of energy, a lot of resources, a lot of time to get...
By the way, there's nothing inherently sexual about just questioning your gender identity. There's a lot of conflation with this, of course, but again, like I mentioned at the top of this, Michael Knowles believes that being gay inherently and being trans inherently is sexual. So yeah. And yeah, I mean, like, there's nothing sexual inherently about a person questioning their gender identity at all.
At us to this point in society. And it was a political agenda pushed essentially, well, exclusively by the left. It was just abetted and permitted by the squishy conservatives who said, oh, it's not a big deal. Never mind. Move along. Nothing to see here.
The word is abated, not abetted. Oh my God. Wish I could skip these ads.
We all know that it is wrong to trans the 2-year-olds. We all know that, right? And we all know that this research is bogus, but even if it were real, even if a 2-year-old can barely speak, but
it's so funny that like he just assumes that the research is bogus because it doesn't conform to his preconceived notions about the reality in the world. Like if he really thinks it, like if you were to believe that a piece of literature or academic, like an academic journal, anything pertaining to science, social science, or anything, is bogus, then it needs to be demonstrated. You can't just claim that. Like, if people like, I'm not saying you need to like create your own research, but you could cite counterexamples and you could provide empirical evidence broadly that has been retested and agreed upon by the scientific community to challenge that that study. He didn't do it here because conservatives don't like empiricism. They usually reject it, and when they hence why he's saying that this research is bogus, because conservatives, like I said, they don't really abide by reality at all.
If a 2-year-old could come up with some conception of gender identity.
Also, this is really brain dead as well on his behalf. A lot of it is subconscious, right? Because children, they don't understand, like, it depends on what age we're talking about, but a lot of children who are really young don't have a firm, nuanced understanding of the world. However, they can pick up on certain cues, gender cues, based upon the hormones they have, as well as those who look like them in terms of whether they're masculine or feminine, and whether that like conforms to how they perceive themselves. So I think that the research, I mean, I don't know, I haven't read this research obviously, but like it's probably way more complicated than the way he's framing it.
Is divorced from biological sex and a sense of self that recognize that the little boy is somehow a woman. Even if all of that were true, we all know it's wrong and should not be encouraged.
Again, he says we all know it's wrong, and that's him basically saying, that's just his fifis talking. There's nothing like substantive here. There's like no empirical evidence he's proposing to invalidate the research of this article or anything. So,
and it happened pretty fast, didn't it? To go from 1960s free love kind of culture to what you would call the gay rights movement. That took, what, about 20 years or so? Then to go from the gay rights movement to redefining marriage, that took about, I don't know, 15 years or maybe a little bit more. Maybe that was like 20 years. Then to go from gay marriage, 2015, to transing kids, that took about, I don't know, 5 years, if that. And then to go from transing kids.
This is all fear-mongering, keep in mind.
Including in elementary schools, to transing the 2-year-olds, that took like 6 months. This is accelerating. And every step along the way, people say, oh, is this a big deal? Come on, this is a trivial culture war issue. Yeah, it's a culture war issue, but it ain't trivial. That's why the libs are spending so much time on it.
Actually, it's the conservatives spending a majority of their time fighting this battle. This is why they focus a lot of time and energy on non-binary teachers, on Disney, on drag shows. So it's really them more so than anyone else. And also I mean, Michael Knowles is a Nazi, so it's no surprise that he wants to place a large amount of emphasis upon the culture that is being cultivated by liberals. And that culture really is just egalitarianism. So as a Nazi, as a Nazi and a fascist, it's no surprise that he wants to place emphasis upon the subjugation of minority groups, because he is inherently against the idea of egalitarianism.
We all know, if anyone here has ever had a 2-year-old, and you can picture these predators, these political predators coming up and trying to trans your little 2-year-old, you would probably feel an instinct to violence, okay? You know it's a big deal. Everybody knows it's a big deal. Where does this come from? Where does it come from? It comes from...
How much longer do we have to deal with this?
The reticence of squishes to state plain truths because they don't want to offend people and they don't want to be politically incorrect. I'm glad.
Yeah, so as is the case with many conservatives, especially Michael Knowles, like people like Michael Knowles, they reject the idea of the Enlightenment. So all the Enlightenment ideas, like values of liberalism and shit, they are adamantly opposed to such philosophical beliefs, and consequently, this results in them lashing out against representation of trans people and media and them coming out and shit, and because ultimately they want a society that rejects these people. I mean, it is of the prerogative of Nazis to um, like ultimately like genocide like trans people. Um, they have to do it in subtle ways, but it's always starts somewhere, right? Attacking drag shows, attacking trans people in the military. I mean, the same shit happened with gays in the military. So it's really like a one step. It's like the first step on a long list of steps, ultimately leading to the minorities being led to the gas chambers, which of course Michael Knowles probably fantasizes about every day. All right. Well, that was enlightening. All right. Yeah, Michael Knowles is fucking crazy. I mean, well, I don't know if crazy is the word. He's very far right, incredibly far right. All right. Well, I think that's it. Unless there's some other shit to cover, which I doubt. Okay. Well, with that being said, I guess we'll call it a day. You know. Wait, what? What the fuck is this? Excuse me, Jesus. 134 Republicans uh, vote against banning private ownership of lions and tigers. Is this like a Bond villain like aesthetic they're trying to achieve here? Like, what? Is this like a thing rich people do? I, so random. I don't know. Okay. Random ass shit. Why would they vote against it? I don't even know. It doesn't have to make sense, actually. I don't really care. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we can, I think we're Gucci for now. Oh yeah, Biden was trying to do like an inflation act or something. Let me see. Inflation act. What the fuck even is inside this bill? Oh, this is a transcript. Oh man, do I really have to read this? Oh god. I don't know if I'm going to read all of it. Maybe I'll read a little bit. The Inflation Reduction Act of 2022 will make a historic down payment on deficit reduction to fight inflation, invest in domestic energy production and manufacturing, and reduce carbon emissions by roughly 40% by 2030. The bill will also finally allow Medicare to negotiate for prescription drug prices and extend the expanded Affordable Care Act program for 3 years through 2025. I mean, that's good, but it's not great. The new proposal for the FY 2022 budget reconciliation bill will invest approximately $300 billion in deficit reduction. Okay. So the total revenue raised, $739 billion. 15% corporate minimum tax. Prescription drug pricing reform, $288 billion. IRS tax enforcement, carried interest loophole. This is the thing I think that Sinema and Manchin were trying to get rid of. Energy, security, climate change. Okay. Oh, this is just the first page. And this is, yeah. Oh, God. Lowers healthcare premiums for millions of Americans, makes biggest corporations and ultra-wealthy pay their fair share. Fair share is so subjective, it could mean anything. There are no new taxes on families making $400,000 or less. And no new taxes on small businesses. We're closing tax loopholes and enforcing the tax code. I mean, the tax loopholes thing is pretty good, I guess. Can I get like a better summary, though? Oh, this is congress.gov. Oh God, I can't speak the parlance of Congress people. Can we like get maybe a Sparks Notes summary or something? Apparently, it's going to address some climate change shit, which is good, of course. Ugh. The former Vice President Al Gore, champion of climate change reform, and Larry Summers, who has been critical, they expressed support for the bill. Manchin had opposed parts of the bill that include investments in combating climate change and tax provisions leaving. Yeah, of course he does. Yeah. This bill includes $300 billion deficit reduction. Yeah. It could also raise about $13 billion from a new 15% corporate minimum tax. That's good. The president noted that the bill does not include several parts of the Build Back Better agenda, and he says he will continue to fight for provisions that would make child care and elder care more affordable, reduce the cost of college and preschool, and expanded Medicaid. How is this? What on earth is wrong with this? How is this bad in any respect? The Senate could take up the bill as early as next week. I mean, I guess it's like not enough, I guess, in some respects, but it's better than whatever the fuck Republicans would do. President Biden was not involved. Yeah. He's concerned about inflation here and he's concerned about inflation, but you're going to be making a shit ton of money off of the new corporate minimum tax. Okay. Okay. So odds are this won't pass, but it's a good try, I guess. We really got to get Manchin. Oh, unfortunately, like Manchin is probably the best we're gonna get out of West Virginia, so we really gotta. I don't know, man. We gotta pull strings or something. Same with Sinema. Sinema really like. Yeah, Sinema's rough too. Oh, God. All right. Well, I think for now I'll be good to go. I gotta go do some shit, but I have no doubt in my mind there will be much much to discuss next week. But yeah. All right. Well, thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys August 6th, I think. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll see you guys next week. So take care.